Can I turn to something completely different now? You've talked about different countries where AIQ have played a part.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to ask you about the Czech Republic. The Channel 4 investigation, the undercover investigation, executives on screen said that Cambridge Analytica and SCL had worked in more than 200 elections across the world, including in the Czech Republic. And I'm quoting from Mark Turnbull, a man with a plaster on his nose. We've just used a different organisation to run a very, very successful project in an Eastern European country where no one even knew they were there. Did you know anything about the work in the Czech Republic?
I've heard about the work in the Czech Republic, but I don't have any direct experience on it. But this is sort of what I'm saying about the role of AIQ and other companies like it, is that if you want a company to fly under the radar or not be noticed until after an election, after you've gotten out of the country, it's very beneficial to have this web of companies that are registered in different countries, that have seemingly independent operations that you can then use to operate under the radar.
Yeah. And you also mentioned in your evidence about Russian companies working with, I think, Alexander Nix. And I know that in the evidence that you've made public, you talked about Alexander Nix doing a presentation to Lukoil.
Lukoil. I've passed this on to the committee.
You said it didn't make any sense to me. If this was a presentation about a commercial deal, why were they so interested? Why were Lukoil so interested in our political targeting? And obviously there's a connection between Lukoil and the Czech Republic, because one of the former Lukoil executives
they paid for all the legal
advises
fees.
the new president of the Czech Republic. So what data did the companies that were pitched in Russia, did the companies that were pitched in Russia have access to data? What were they able to see and get hold of?
What I am a direct witness to is meetings, presentations, discussions, and conference calls with Lukoil. So I can't say one way or the other did data end up going to Lukoil. But the conversations with Lukoil surrounded two things. Firstly, Alexander sent them white papers that I'd written, or sort of project write-ups that I had written about the Ripon project. So what kind of data were we collecting? What was our internal capacity like? How effective was it? And so a paper that just explains, we're profiling the American electorate. We can target them online. This is how we influence them. And then secondly, presentations from Alexander Nix, which I've also provided to the committee, which the very first slide is rumor campaigns in Nigeria, disinformation in Nigeria, attitudinal inoculation in Nigeria, undermining confidence in civic institutions in Nigeria. And those were the first couple slides that he gave to Lukoil, this Russian oil company. And the thing that I found bizarre at the time, and my feelings at the time weren't necessary. It was sort of suspicion, but not in a concerning way. Just in sort of like, what are you doing, Alexander? Because just something something naughty, not nefarious, if that makes sense. Because to me it didn't make sense, and he would refuse to tell me what this actual project was, because it didn't make sense to me. This Russian oil company wants to know about all of this data that we're collecting, despite the fact that we don't operate anywhere where it has an interest. Like, it doesn't. It's a Russian oil company. Why do you need a massive profiling project in America? That didn't make sense to me. And then also, what didn't make sense to me was why Alexander made such a concerted effort to show this company, its experience with disinformation and rumor campaigns. So I just didn't have. at the time I just thought, okay, well, there's something else up here, but I didn't think it was some kind of grand conspiracy or anything. I just thought, oh, it's just maybe Alexander is doing some deal or cutting some deal or some money thing or whatever. But it was when, in the 2016 cycle when, this narrative about and evidence about Russian interference, particularly using Facebook as a means as a vehicle for propaganda, where I started to think, right, well, we were talking to a company that works hand in hand with the FSB. Alexander put in an email that he was sending my white paper and documents to the CEO of the company. So it's not some random person at the company, to the person at the very top of this company. And that we also made it known that the lead professor who had access to the harvesting applications was going back and forth to Russia and working on the project partly out of Russia, and also working on other psychological profiling projects in Russia. And so for me, that was concerning. I'm not saying, I'll be super clear, I'm not saying that Alexander Nix or Alexander Kogan or anybody involved in that knowingly colluded with Russia to undermine an American election. What I'm saying is that there was a very significant risk that was created in notifying this company, not only of the existence of this data, but the fact that in telling them that the person in charge of this data is actually operating in part out of Russia would make it incredibly easy for them to get access to that data. And for me, that's concerning, and I think that should be looked into. It's not that there was, I'm not saying that there was, that I think, and my own view is I think that Alexander was being really stupid. They should have known better, because you have to remember SCL Group, runs projects in the Baltics and Eastern Europe for various NATO countries on counter-propaganda, counter-Russian propaganda, and they also work on the NATO Stratcom training center in Latvia. So Alexander would have known that, given how closely we work on the border of Russia on projects that were funded by NATO members, in large part for counter-propaganda effort, that and the Stratcom Center and all that kind of work in Latvia, that the company would have logically been an intelligence target for Russia. So if you're meeting with Lukoil, which very openly has a relationship with the FSB and operates in Europe where the FSB can't, and you are likely already an intelligence target because of the military and defense project work that you're doing in Eastern Europe and the Baltics, and then you tell them that, hey, by the way, you don't even need to hack into our data systems. Just put a keylogger on Kogan's computer in Russia and you've got everything. It's as simple as that.
Okay. You mentioned a professor in relation to that evidence you just gave. Who was the professor?
Kogan.
That was Kogan.
Right, fine. But also when you look at Kaczynski, although Kaczynski didn't work on this project, Kaczynski was also going to Russia. Right. Yeah. He posted that he was going to do a presentation to the Russian Prime Minister.